Welcome back to a brand new coffee tech break with Jan. So today, I think I got another great video for you lined up because I wanted to take you through. So today, what I will show you is how you can get that full control and what you see here when you sign in with a user. And on the other end, I will show you a resource account with a limited set of features and functionality. And you can do that by assigning specific meeting policy to that resource account. But I will walk that all through. Now, before I jump into my computer, let me talk you through what I will discuss and show you today. So we got user accounts and we got resource account. So what I think is good to know is you can log in with your user account. Maybe you've probably already done that for some testing. So you can log in with your user account and that will give you full access here to the settings, what you see also here. So you get full access, you can change the wallpaper, you can sign out, and I will show you that a bit in my Teams meeting room, so you're able to compare that with the other resource account with a meeting room policy. So here you will see everything. This is just logging in with a user account. Now, on the other hand, what I will do is in Teams Admin Center. So I got a demo tenant. In Teams Admin Center, I will show you the creation of a resource account, which there's hundreds of ways to create Teams resource account. I just show you one of those methods, which, yeah, for me is a very easy method. I will assign the regular parameters to it because there are some important parameters because by default the comments are deleted. You got some different parameters. If you want to allow external users, for example, and external organizations, if you want them to have the ability to schedule such a room, you need to allow that. These are very specific settings. But again, I will walk that through during the creation. All the commands that I'm using, because we will be using PowerShell, we will connect to Azure, etc. All those commands, I will put them in a file and I will share them on my Google Drive. So you will be able to find those in links in the comments where I always put a lot of information. And so if you need any reference and things I'm talking about, I always try to put as much as information in the comments. And so always check there if you need some additional information. But I will place there also that file where I put in all the commands that I will use today. This is a question I'm getting a lot, how to limit the menu on the Studio X and on the TC8, how to limit the menu so that users won't sign out during those meetings or changing backgrounds or doing anything else which could break potentially those rooms. Now, let me take you now step by step in Office 365 Admin Center through the setup of a resource account, assign a meeting room policy to it, and show you that here on the Studio X and on the TC8. Let's go. Take a cup of coffee, sit back and relax, and I will walk it through step by step. I'll try to do it not fast. I will try to show you every step that I'm taking here to walk that through. Now, first off, we go to the Microsoft Office 365 sign-in page. We go to sign in, and this is usually the first step. As an admin, you need to sign in, of course, to your Teams Admin Center. So let me do that also right here, right? And we stay signed in here, okay? And it's just a temporary demo tenant, but it's perfect to show some things. So I think Microsoft is doing that very well to give customers and partners the opportunity to play around and test with all those features. What we see here, so I'm now in the Office portal. You need to jump now to the admin portal. So let me do that. We can go right here to the admin portal, and that should give you access to Exchange portal, the Endpoint Manager, the Teams portal, etc. And also I can show you the users here. So let me do that. First off, my active users. And as you will see, I don't have any rooms accounts yet or resource accounts. As you can see right here, these are most of now users. And now I'm signed in with MTR Android. This is the account below. I usually assign during demos E5, which contains most of the licenses, like the Endpoint Manager license, Intune, etc. So I usually just pick an E5 to make sure for the demos I can show everything. But that is always good to know. So you'll find your users right here. Those users automatically have a mailbox, so I can use that like on my Outlook, but I can also use that mailbox here on the Studio X. And that is no problem. Now, these are the active users under licenses. So I think that's very good. You can find here licenses under purchase services. You can find licenses. What I think is good to know is you can always check here, Teams Room, check here if you have licenses. And so under services, you can find here other services, and then you see here below, try to make it a bit bigger. You got here Teams Room Premium. You got here the Microsoft Teams Room Standard without audio conference, and you got Teams Room Premium without audio conference. So these are different licenses. Now let me click, for example, on the Teams Room Standard without audio license, because there's one thing is very interesting, is you can buy here a license for your Teams Room, but also you can start a free trial. And this trial includes 25 devices which you can use for 1 month. So you can easily start testing this, and it is working for your environment. You could buy those licenses. Now, underneath you will find the licenses that are attached to it. So as you can see, there's a Teams license, there's a phone system license, and also Intune. I think also good to know. As you find, the mobile device management is in there, and so there's different features and functionality part of this Microsoft Teams Room standard license. One thing is good to know, if you want to do some sort of conditional access based on compliance, location, user or device state, you need an additional license. Those conditional access things, so if you want to make sure that if you sign in to, for example, Studio X, which is a specific location, or at a specific IP address, you want to configure that, there is a possibility. So see that as you sign in, that is one method there where you got some security, but you can have an additional layer of security, like where the device exactly is. And that could be a combination for your for your security if you want to do that. But that is not part of this Microsoft Teams standard room license. If you want to do those type of things, you need to go back to product services, and then you need to find here, you look under Azure. So that will give you Azure Active Directory Premium license. So here you will find Azure Premium 1 and Azure Directory Premium P2. Now, if I click, for example, Active Directory Premium P1, I think this is very interesting. So under Active Directory, so you'll find here Azure Active Directory. If you open up that part, so what is part of this license, you go a little bit down, you go, let me try to make it a bit bigger. You go down, here you go. Conditional access based on group and location. And here you find another one, conditional access based on the device state. So I think this is really interesting. So if you want to do some conditional access stuff, make sure you have this one, the Azure Active Directory Premium 1, additionally to your premium, to your Teams Room standard license. That's very important. Just to give you a little bit of idea about the licenses, because I've seen a lot where customers are using, or maybe using a conditional access or using Intune, which actually, so Intune is actually part of that Teams Room license, but for example, not those conditional access licenses. So if you have that enabled, it could be that your device is not able to pass because it doesn't have this Azure Active Directory premium P1 license. Now, I'm not going to dive deeper into those licenses. I will leave that up to the Microsoft experts, but I just wanted to make you aware of those licenses available here in the service, and especially the Teams room license. You can get a trial to work that all through. All right, now let me take you step by step to creating a resource account and assigning that meeting policy to that resource account. I will do that step by step. Now, the first step, creating a resource account, that can be done in many different ways. Only using the PowerShell, partly using Office 365 admin center, and using that in combination with the PowerShell to assign some policies to that resource account. You can do it through scripts. There's a lot of different ways to do it. But I will do that middle one. So I will partly use here the web UI, the Office 365 Admin Center, and I usually start here in the Exchange environment. Because in this Exchange environment, and here you will find the different users, you got the options here like resource. So here you can start creating a resource account. So let me do that. Add a resource. What you immediately will see is you will see a room or equipment. Now, equipment is more like a beamer you got in a specific room or any other hardware what is in there. You can put it on equipment, but I will create a room now. Now, let me call that mtr dot android dot room to make sure I got a little bit of different setting there. This will automatically create an email, and there's no account yet. So resource, if you create a resource account, a room account, there's by default no password there. So this is something I will do after this to make sure there's a password on this account also. Now we got the resource email. Here we can set the capacity, location, and phone number. This is if people are searching for rooms and they're able to find that additional information. Here you can add all the department information. These are all triggers like looking for a room specific at that location, and it's able to give you all the information through the users to book that room. Very powerful. Now, you can assign some booking policy. So allow repeating meetings, so recurring meetings. You can allow, for example, scheduling only during working hours, which is off here by default. Auto accept meeting requests. So this means if I schedule a meeting and it's not booked yet, it will automatically accept that meeting. And so it gives you a message, and if it's already booked, it will also provide you that information. Now here you can find some information on the bookings. So automatically decline booking outside of limits. So if you are booking so much time ahead, and it is not possible, as you can see, to make sure that the room is available as much as possible, because otherwise people will probably book maybe throughout the whole year. And this is something you probably want to discuss with the facilities of those rooms also. And here you can put in a message if you want to reply to the organizer that the Teams room is scheduled, etc. It will give you some additional information. This will be put in here. Okay, let's say next. We got a sort of summary, and we say create. Now the resource mailbox is created. I think it's very important that it's a mailbox, right? Now, as soon as the mailbox is created, as you can see, and type, it's a room. So let me make it a bit bigger. Type is a room, as you see right here. Now, next thing is put a password on this account. So we go back to our users. So active users, then we should be able to see this account. And here you can see that. So the mtr Android, as you see, .room, and it says here also the email address, and also what is good to know, it's a license now. And so I need to attach a license also to it. So if I click on that, then I get some additional options. So I can say here, reset password. Let me do that. Assign a password to it. Okay, because you don't want to automatically create a password. You just want to assign it to make sure you know what the password is. All right, the password has successfully been created. Okay, close that. That's the first step. And the next step is we need to assign a license. And that should also be available here. Manage product license. All right. Now, I will make life easier and I will attach, or you can do E3 or E5. Usually, if I have them available in my demo tenant, I just attached one of these. So you always have these available. Right? Save. All right, so we have now the MTR Android room. We have that available now. Now, what we need to do next is we need to assign some parameters to this account. I think this is very important because the default with a resource account, as it or with a room account, resource account, room account. So with a room account, what will happen? It will delete everything which is in the subject field. But that means also the whole Teams invite. But this is the information which we need because we want to, that join button which we see on the touch panel, we want to able to press that. So we need to make sure that we add some parameters to this account. Now, to enable those, you need to enable the PowerShell. And I know we're going in all different directions, but this is the thing, you got so many options to configure this stuff, and I'm just using the one that I'm usually using. So you go to the classic Teams Admin Center, the classic piece of the Exchange part. Here you see an option hybrid. If I click on that, right? Now, you install first the Exchange PowerShell module. That's, I think, very important. You can install by clicking on Learn More, and I can also put a link in the comments, but you probably should be able to find that. You click on Configure, you say Open Up, and now it will open up the PowerShell, as you see right here. This is a starting point by connecting first to Exchange, so PowerShell, open up a link to Exchange, and on the other hand, we need to open up the PowerShell to Teams to make sure we can assign a meeting room policy. All right, let me show you now the commands. So what I've done is I've created a file, which I will share in the comments through my Google Drive, where I will walk that through step by step through that process to assign that meeting room policy to my device. And at the end, I will show you the end user experience. And so first, let me create those accounts, and then we go into my Teams room, and I will show you that exact experience and the difference between those different sign-ins. So first off, we connect to that Exchange online. So let me copy this one, and then you need to, right? So we sign in with my admin account. You go. So this is the first one. We connect to Exchange online to make sure that that line is open. And here you receive all the remote commands, and it sets up the session. That's the first one. All right, done. And the second one, I need to open up the PowerShell with Teams, and we can do that to connect to Teams. And we authenticate, and here you go. So we are now signed in as the admin through the PowerShell. This is the basis. So here we start. Okay, first off, very important. Let me try to make this a bit bigger. So here you see those very important parameters. And let me copy this one and put it in here. Because what will happen is, as you can see here, delete comments is, for example, false. Delete, here you see, delete subject, false. So you see here some parameters which are very important for this resource account. And also additional response, so your meeting is now scheduled there with the Teams room. So you can add some additional information if needed there. But specifically, that one, the delete comments, false, and the delete subject. That's very important. And you do that on that MTR Android account, which I created earlier. This is super important. The automatic processing, so I already done that through the Office 365 admin portal, so that is already there. But what I will do now is, this is the first step. You need to assign this policy to that account. So we enable that. That's the first one. And probably most of the people are aware. There's a lot of blogs out there, and also Microsoft has some good guidance there about how creating those resource accounts. So here I'm back in my file. So the other one, which is an interesting one, and you probably need to discuss that with your organization, is allow external domains to invite the room. So if you have a lot of people who are coming into the company and you want to give the flexibility to, or maybe some different rooms or some other rooms, you want to give them flexibility that they can walk in and those people can schedule those rooms. You need to make sure that you allow on these specific rooms, you allow those external domains. So people from external other Teams tenants are able to schedule those rooms. It's not a global setting, you do that per room. But I can imagine that where you got maybe some rooms on the ground floor, where you got also external guests, etc. I can imagine you want to give them some more flexibility, then you can use this option. Okay, let me go back, copy and paste that. So to stay in sync, the next step, copy paste. All right, so we add this also to that account. Let me do that. An external, all right, here you go. So as soon as you come back into the prompt, then it is assigned. Okay, now we check the parameters. So here's another like PowerShell command. Let me copy that to make sure and check all the properties. So here you can find all the settings if they have been processed. Okay, so the next step, and now it becomes interesting, is creating a meeting room policy. These meeting room policy are also used by phones, where you can also have a limited set of information available on the phone. And so this is a very interesting subject. If you haven't been exploring those like policies, I would really recommend to play around with it because it's a very interesting one. So first off, you need to create a policy. And this is the command for that, the new CS Teams IP policy. So as you can see, it's also used by the phones. So I copy that. All right, I'll put that here and try to create it. A new IP phone meeting room policy. Here you go. So we have that policy now. Okay, then I go back into my file. What we need to do now, second step, is we need to grant this policy to that like room account, that resource account. All right, now we've granted the policy to this resource account. I think it's time to show you in my Teams room how this looks like. So show you the difference between a user account and when assigning in with this resource account, which has this meeting policy assigned. So let me jump into my Teams room now. Welcome into my Teams room. So if you haven't been taking some coffee, I would say take a cup of coffee in between. Here I can show you the experience. So here you got on the big screen, you see here the home screen of the Studio X, and here below you see like the TC8. I made it a bit bigger so you got good visibility of that. So I can also show you around there. So here you see my mouse, so I can point you to some different settings. Now, I'm already signed in with a user because I don't want to like replicate things you probably already seen. So I signed in here with just a user account. Now, this user account will give me access. If you go then to settings, will give you access to everything. And that's, I think, the most important thing also to show you. What you also see is that sign out button. Here you go. And I think that's a very important one. We don't want to see that sign out button where you are in a meeting room. And so we're going to move a lot of those things which you see now right here, which is and should make sense for a user to use and change those different settings, but not in a meeting room. And you probably don't need that. Also the wallpaper option, you don't want to give users in a shared room the option to play around with those settings. So what I will do now is I will sign out and my Studio X and will sign in with that Studio X account, that resource account, that Teams account which I created earlier, and yeah, and I granted that meeting room policy to that account. So, but first let me sign out now. Here you go, back to the initial screen. Both the TC8, as you see here below and on the Studio X on the TV UI. Yeah? So you got to make sure that you sign in both devices with the same account. That's very important because otherwise the TC8 won't be able to find that Studio X and to pair it up over Teams. Okay, so let me first now sign in at the Studio X. So what we need to do is we put in that password, which we have on the screen. And that makes life a lot easier for your remote sign-in. All right. The next step is we need to use another account. So we use here our Android room account and the Android room account, which we created earlier. All right. So we sign that one in. Okay. Okay, now let me look at the meeting room if that went fine. So let me check. So it's signing in now. So first I usually do the Studio X signing in now to the environment. And so as I said earlier, check if you made an exception, if you're using mobile device management or Intune or any policies. If you're not being allowed, you probably need to double check that. So Studio X walking to that sign in now. All right. So Studio X is signed in now. That is the first one. And now let me sign in the TC8. All right. So we put in the code of the TC8. Okay. Now again, make sure you use that same account on TC8. And let us go back to that meeting room. So we are back now in the meeting room and signing in the TC8. We'll walk through the same process. Also, again, if you got that Intune stuff, you could probably see that it's running all through here, or if it's blocked somewhere, you should be able to see that. I will always recommend it to check the device management, the login, the sign-in, login, and if you're not going through this process. Okay, signing in. This is a Teams pairing. So I'll click now on the pairing button. As you can see, it will provide me with that pin. And I click on pair. Here you go. And now the controls will move from the big screen and will move now to the TC8, as you see right here. All right, now what about the menu? As I showed you earlier, as a user, you could do anything. So we're now back here at the TC8. Let's go and click on more. We click on settings, and here you go. We only have a couple of settings available now. No more wallpaper, no more sign out, no more separate settings. It's all hidden behind the password now. So we only have report an issue. If you want to make a note of something or you run into something and you got the about. That could be useful as a remote user. You want to pass through some information. Now, if I click on device settings, you will move to the second screen, but again, very limited. You got debug option, accessibility. So here you could change and make the text a bit bigger and it makes sense for an end user. You got the about. And if I click on admin now, it's protected, as you can see. So you cannot just walk through and change wallpapers or anything else in the device. It's all protected now. So I can log in here. Now we click OK. And now what you will see is all those settings which I showed you earlier. And again, you see that right here below. You see the admin sign out, you see the user sign out, but also Teams admin center. And see is you will find that information now all protected here behind the password. So this was previously at the user end, and as you can see, it's now behind the password. So those calling settings, where you got all those transfer settings, you got meeting settings here, and so show meeting names, for example, in the executive room, if you don't want to show meeting names, but just show the names, and it is a possibility. Here you got some beaconing settings, for example, with the Teams casting, and you can turn it off if you don't want that. We got wallpapers here. It's all hidden now behind the password. And so here you can change the wallpapers to console pairing and also the team sign out. It's all hidden. So as a user, you cannot just go in here and change that stuff. And so if I click now on the admin sign out, it means it will go back to the portal as a user. Here you go. So now I'm behind a password again. As you can see, so click on settings, you'll see that the admin is now signed out. So I'm back to this very limited menu. Now further, what is interesting is you always have those controls here on the side. So in this side menu, let me show you that on the TC8, you got always those controls available as a user. So the home, let's go back to the home screen. The device mode is where you can reuse camera, speaker and mic, reuse that with your laptop. So if you want, for example, WebEx or Zoom or any other platform in combination with your laptop, you just hook up USB cable, hook up the HDMI cable, and I created some videos of that, and I will put a link there so you're able to find that very quickly. This is always available. You could turn this also off, but this is something which needs to be done in the Studio X web UI if you don't want to use this device mode functionality. Now on the other end, what is available? We got there environment. Environment means you can hook it up to, for example, an external environment and control the lighting or the shades or everything in the room. We got another option that is camera control. Here you can set presets, you can turn speaker track on and off, etc. And the last item we find here is settings. I think anytime we need to provide something for support, or you got an engineer who finds something and need to throw back the version information, etc., that is always available at your access from those devices. That makes sense. Now here ends the coffee tech break for today.